Friends, welcome to this video on equity for beginners. In this video lecture you will be able to learn what is equity, what are the various sources of capital available for companies to expand their business, who is known as shareholder, how risk and return components are associated with equity as an asset class, and we will also see a case study associated with equity. Equity. There are two dimensions available for equity when it comes to the definition, with reference to corporate and with reference to investor. For corporate, equity is a source of capital to raise money for their business expansion. For investor, equity is an asset class to earn returns out of it. Equity is a source of capital for companies which is moving their business towards growth. Equity represents the ownership one owes in a business entity. Equity is otherwise an asset class for investors to earn returns. To put it in a nutshell, equity is a win-win proposition for both corporates and the investors. Mrs. Sharma, who is owning a green factory, this green factory is currently into manufacturing of green tea. They have a distribution network across southern part of India. Due to the intensive competitive environment and due to the more number of green tea manufacturing units formed across southern part of India, the business share of green factory has significantly reduced, which in turn put a lot of pressure on the green factory to go for an expansion geographically, for which Mrs. Sharma decided to raise capital from the public for the development of green tea business across India. The primary sources of capital earlier considered by Mrs. Sharma was to borrow money from the bank. But since the cost of borrowing is increased to 18%, she completely rejected this proposal of borrowing money from the bank. Hence this time Mrs. Sharma decides to raise capital by means of equity or debt. After doing the financial calculation, she decides to raise the capital this time by issuing equity. Hence, she decides to break the ownership of green factory into different parts, where she decides to issue the each parts to a different owner to raise the desired amount of capital. To arrive at the capital required amount of rupees 10 lakh, Mrs. Sharma has to fix a price for each of these parts, which is otherwise known as cost of share. She decided to fix the price of rupees 10 for each of these part of ownership. On the balance sheet it is called as face value. Hence, to arrive at the number of equity which is going to be issued to the public, Mrs. Sharma needs to divide the total capital required with the face value. Hence she can able to calculate the number of shares which is going to issue to the public, which is 1 lakh in numbers. In the overall process, let us understand who is the issuer of equity. It is nevertheless the green factory itself. Who is the promoter of equity? Mrs. Sharma, who is the authorized person to dilute all her ownership for the purpose of capital requirement. Who is the shareholder? It is you and me who are going to invest into the equity. Now let us understand what is risk and return associated with equity as an asset class. Risk. Though historically equity has outperformed all asset class in terms of return, the returns are not guaranteed by any financial institution or regulatory body. If you compare equity with a fixed deposit considered to be the more safest bet because of its guarantee returns. Principal at risk. There is more chance where you may lose the entire money you have invested into equity because of so many reasons. Returns. Basically there are two forms of return. One is the capital appreciation, the other one is dividends. if you compare equity with debt, the only source of return when it comes to debt is the interest. There are things to be remembered by the investor while investing into equity. If the investor is more interested in generating capital appreciation, he need to buy the equity at a lower price and sell it at a higher price. The difference in prices between these two activities will fetch him a profit. If the investor is more concerned in generating dividends, he need to buy a equity wherein the company is more interested to share the profit with the shareholder and hold it for a longer period of time. Let us move to the case study. Example 1. Assume you have bought 100 shares of Green Factory for price of rupees 300. You expect that the share price would increase at 10% per annum. Calculate the appreciation generated by Green Factory at end of first year. As we have seen in the previous slides, there are two basic actions involved by any investor. One is buying, other one is selling. You are about to buy 100 shares of Green Factory for price of rupees 300. Hence the total value of buying would be 300 into 100 quantity of share, which is 30,000 rupees. When you are about to sell this share, you want to identify the selling price. As you seen in the second line of the case study, you expect that the share price would increase at 10% per annum. Hence, the rate appreciated would be 10%. The selling price would be 300 plus 10% of 300. Hence, the total amount would be 330 rupees. You bought each share at rupees 300, which got appreciated to 330 rupees. Hence the total value of selling would be 330 into 100 quantity of share, which is 33,000 rupees. On a whole, based on the two transactions, you are able to generate a profit of 3,000, which is otherwise known as realized gain. Why it is known as realized gain? Because you are booking the profit by the way of selling the shares in the public market. Example 2. Assume you have bought 100 shares of Green Factory for current market price of rupees 300. After 1 year of investing, the share price has increased by 10%. Also, the company had issued interim dividend of rupees 4 per share. Calculate the returns generated by Green Factory for the year. The buying price of Green Factory is rupees 300 as given in the case study. Hence, the total value of buying is 300 rupees into 100 quantity of share, which is 30,000 rupees. There is no selling price since you are holding this stock for a period of time. The rate is appreciated at 10% per annum at the end of the year. Hence the holding value would be 300 plus 10% of 300 plus the dividend amount of rupees 4, which is issued during the current year. Hence the total holding value would be 334 rupees. The total holding value is 334 rupees into 100 quantity of share, which is 33,400 rupees. The difference in prices between these two transactions will generate the profit of 3,400, out of which 3,000 rupees is the unrealized gain. Why it is called as unrealized gain? Because you have not sold the share yet in the market. Only the appreciation value you are calculating based on the rate of 10%. Hence it is known as unrealized gain. You are generating a realized gain of rupees 400, which is otherwise the dividend amount you are realized in form of cash. Now let us do a comparison between these two examples. In example 1, the profits are realized, which means you are buying the share of Green Factory and selling it down the line 1 year to book the profit. Whereas in example 2, you are just holding the share for longer period to receive the dividends. Hence only the dividends are realized in form of cash. Example 1 shows high amount of liquidity because you are not committed to hold this equity for longer term. whereas in example 2 it shows a low amount of liquidity because you are committed to hold this equity for longer period to enjoy the dividends which arise in the future. Due to its high liquidity in nature, it carries low amount of risk. In example 2, due to its low liquidity in nature, it carries high amount of risk. The returns are limited in example 1 because only the capital appreciation is accounted. The returns are high in example 2 because it generates two sources of return. One is capital appreciation, other one is dividends. End of the day, it is the choice of the investor who is going to judge between these two examples based on his own risk appetite. I hope this video found to be useful. Thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you.